The email notification pinged while 3 monitors tracked my vitals, and my baby's heartbeat rattled through the room like a frantic drum solo. 7.5 months pregnant, wired to enough equipment to launch a space shuttle, and my husband of 5 years picked this moment to divorce me by email, not a text, not a call. Definitely not in person, an email with the subject line, "Moving forward separately, I'm Caitlin Fisher, I'm 29, and apparently I'm about to be single." The message read like a proposal he'd sent to a client. Bradley even used bullet points like I was an underperforming employee being formally let go. Irreconcilable differences, different life goals, my personal favorite. Need for personal growth. The man who couldn't keep a tomato plant alive suddenly needed growth. My hands shook as I scrolled. The monitors chirping faster as my heart rate climbed. Then I saw it, effective immediately. He'd already filed, while I'd been admitted 3 days ago with complications that could trigger early labor. While doctors watched our daughter like a hawk, worried about whether she'd make it, Bradley had been at a lawyer's office signing papers. I opened our banking app, already braced for the punch. Our joint account, which had held $47,000 yesterday, now showed $12.83. He'd left just enough to keep it technically open. Checking. Savings. The emergency fund we'd built together gone. 5 years of careful budgeting, overtime, missed vacations. Someday, purchases we postponed so we could build a future, our baby's future. All transferred out while I lay in an ICU bed trying to keep my daughter inside me for a few more weeks. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Diane, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years thanks to a ridiculous blow-up over our mother's china set. "Why is Bradley posting pictures with some blonde from your living room?" My fingers were unsteady as I opened Instagram. There was my husband, arms around a woman who looked barely old enough to drink, posed in front of our fireplace. Our wedding photos sat on the mantel behind them, still smiling like a cruel joke. Caption: "New chapter with my queen at Tiffany Fit Life." The nurse, Sandra, must have noticed the monitor changes because she hurried in, sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. "Honey, you need to stay calm. Whatever's happening, it's not worth." "My husband just divorced me by email," I said. My voice sounded weirdly steady. "He emptied our accounts and moved his girlfriend into our house." Sandra's mouth dropped open. She'd been taking care of me for 3 days. She'd seen Bradley visit exactly once, 12 minutes, scrolling his phone the whole time. "That absolutely worthless piece of," she caught herself, swallowing hard. "Sorry." "Professional boundaries." "No, please," I said. "Keep going, I'd love your professional opinion." She checked my vitals, muttering about anatomical impossibilities in Bradley's future. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I looked at the email again, then typed a one-word reply. "Understood." Sandra blinked. "Just understood, just understood." My phone rang immediately. "Bradley," I declined. It rang again, declined. The third call, Sandra snatched my phone before I could hit the button. "Mr. Fisher, this is ICU," she said brightly. "Your wife can't come to the phone right now because—" "Oh, wait, she's not your wife anymore, is she? Also, you've been removed as her emergency contact." "Have a blessed day." She hung up and handed my phone back like she just returned a library book. "Oops," she said. "Slipped." I laughed, then winced as a contraction rolled through me. A false alarm, just my body's reminder that my baby didn't care about her father's timing. "You know what's funny?" I said as Sandra adjusted my IV. "He thinks I'm some pushover accountant who'll roll over and take this." Sandra tilted her head. "Aren't you an accountant?" "I'm a forensic accountant," I said. "I find hidden assets during divorces." The irony was thick enough to butter toast with. I made a living helping women figure out what their husbands were really worth when those husbands tried to suddenly become broke. Sandra's grin could have powered the hospital. "Oh, this is going to be good." My phone buzzed again. "Diane, Caitlin, I'm looking at public records. Bradley listed the separation date as 2 months ago. That's fraud." 2 months ago, I'd been 5.5 months pregnant and Bradley had been at a conference in Denver. I scrolled back through Instagram. There was Tiffany, his CrossFit trainer, posting selfies from Denver that same weekend. The same conference he'd charged to his company card. Another buzz, this one from Roger, my business partner. Bradley just called asking for your client list, said you're transferring your accounts to him. I told him to perform an anatomically impossible act. You okay? My contractions were stronger now. Not active labor, but warning shots, stress-induced like the doctor had warned. I was supposed to calm down. How do you stay zen when your life detonates via email? Sandra returned with the doctor, who glanced at my chart and frowned. Mrs. Fisher, your blood pressure. Ms. Morrison, I corrected, my maiden name. Effective immediately. The doctor paused, then nodded. Ms. Morrison, we need to keep you stable. Whatever's happening in my personal life is handled, I said, opening my laptop. Sandra, could you grab me a coffee? This is going to be a long night. You can't have coffee, honey, Sandra said. You're pregnant and on medication. Decaf, I said. I need to feel productive while I ruin a man's life using Excel and entirely legal methods. Sandra practically skipped out. And if you're following along with this story, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read everything. Thank you for being here. Morning showed up with revelations like a Black Friday stampede, loud, overwhelming, and somehow worse the deeper you went. At 6 a.m., Patricia, Bradley's mother, called. Her voice shook with a fury I'd never heard through 5 years of polite dinners. That little workout girl is wearing my grandmother's pearls, she hissed. The ones from the family safe. The ones I was saving for my first grandchild. Patricia came from old Connecticut money. Her father had built a fortune in shipping, and she'd always treated family heirlooms like sacred objects. I opened Instagram. Tiffany was doing a sponsored post for protein powder, smiling like a billboard, wearing the pearls Patricia had once shown me with reverence. The same pearls Bradley had sworn he'd never touch without his mother's permission. Patricia, I said, screenshot everything, every post, every picture. Already done. I've got 3 albums worth, she snapped. Did you know she's been calling herself the future Mrs. Fisher since April? When I'd been planning our baby shower alone because Bradley was too busy with work to help pick decorations. An hour later, my health insurance company's HR line called. Miss Pfizer? We're calling about the termination of your coverage. Excuse me, your husband filed separation papers dated 2 months ago, which makes you ineligible for spousal coverage. The termination is retroactive. I'm currently in the ICU, I said slowly, pregnant with complications. The silence on the other end was cemetery deep. Ma'am, the representative said, voice tight, that's insurance fraud. If he filed false dates while I'm hospitalized, I said, send that to me in writing. Absolutely. And ma'am, we're opening an investigation. Your coverage remains active pending review. A pause. He also tried to forge your signature on the separation acknowledgement. Another felony. Bradley was collecting crimes like Pokemon. Mallory arrived before lunch, my best friend since college and now a viciously successful divorce attorney, carrying coffee, fresh clothes, and a look that should have terrified any man with secrets. So, she said, setting up her laptop on my tray, mail fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, theft. It's like he's playing fraud bingo. Can you take my case? Honey, I'd pay you to let me take this case pro bono until we get your money back, she said. Then I'll take my standard rate out of his assets. She pulled up document after document. Also, remember that prenup he insisted on? The one he made me sign because he was paranoid I'd cheat with a client, I said. Mallory's smile turned predatory. Infidelity penalty. $200,000. I nearly choked on ice chips. He doesn't have $200,000. He has a $401k, a Mercedes, a boat he forgot to disclose. And parents with deep pockets who are currently furious, she said. He'll have it. When we dug into our finances, the spending pattern was almost impressive in its stupidity. The $47,000 he'd stolen didn't sit, it bled out fast. Within 2 weeks, it was gone. $30,000 to pay off secret credit cards I'd never seen. $15,000 to Tiffany labeled relocation expenses, which turned out to be Botox, designer bags, and a professional influencer photo shoot. At 22, she needed Botox like I needed another husband who communicated via email. The last $2,000 went toward a security deposit on an apartment, presumably for after he kicked me out of my own home. Roger called with more ammunition. I pulled the company card statements like you asked, he said. Bradley charged $8,000 in client entertainment that matches Tiffany's posts exactly. Spa days, dinner dates. A weekend in Napa, which client? I asked, already knowing. The client he listed doesn't exist, Roger said. I checked, the company isn't real. My contractions tightened into a pattern, doctor. Ramirez, who'd been following my case with the focus of someone binge-watching a soap opera, kept insisting I had to stay calm. Doc, I told her, with respect, my husband is trying to leave me barefoot and pregnant. Literally, he even took my good sneakers. Dr. Ramirez stared. He took your shoes. Check Tiffany's Instagram story. She did, then made a face like she'd bitten into a lemon, wrapped in disappointment. Those don't even look good on her, she said. Her ankles are too thick. Thank you, I said, deeply satisfied. Sandra started a betting pool with the nursing staff about whether I'd crack before delivery. So far, I was trending eerily calm, with a side of planning something devastating. The smart money was on me staying composed until Bradley realized what hit him. That afternoon, Patricia visited and brought something I didn't expect, Bradley's father's journal from 30 years ago. I need you to see this, she said, setting the worn leather book on my bed. History is repeating itself. The entries were a blueprint of betrayal. Bradley's father had abandoned Patricia when Bradley was 2, emptied accounts, moved in with his secretary. The difference was simple. Patricia hadn't been a forensic accountant. I was helpless, she whispered, gripping my hand. You're not, end him. My hospital room became a war room, 3 laptops. 2 phones on speaker, legal documents piled high enough to rebuild the Library of Congress. Mallory brought her paralegal, Janet, who looked like someone's sweet grandmother until you realized she documented evidence with the intensity of a CSI team. Found another account, Janet announced, adjusting her bifocals. Credit union in Jersey, opened 6 months ago. Bradley's name only. 6 months ago, right around the time Bradley started optimizing his life, counting macros and coming home talking about protein like it was a religion. No man becomes obsessed with macros at 34 without a woman or a midlife crisis. Bradley went for the 2-for-1 deal. Business forensics were my specialty. Even from bed, I could make spreadsheets sing. Every receipt, every transaction, every suspicious charge got categorized, color-coded, and cross-referenced. Bradley had been sloppy, probably because he thought I was too pregnant and overwhelmed to notice. Look, I told Mallory. He used the company card for Tiffany's apartment deposit and coded it as client venue inspection. Mallory lifted a finger. Don't finish that sentence. I'm trying to keep your blood pressure down. The deeper we dug, the uglier it got. Bradley's double life was funded by creative accounting and outright theft. CrossFit membership charged to his company. Tiffany's supplements and workout gear listed as employee wellness initiatives. The man who argued with me over name-brand peanut butter was spending $400 a month on someone else's protein shakes. Then came the smoking gun. Patricia had gotten us Bradley's email password. He'd used the same one since college because, as he once said, why complicate things? His stupidity was my blessing. The emails between him and Tiffany went back 8 months, before we'd even started trying for a baby. The worst one was from last week. Once I get the divorce finalized, we'll have the house free and clear. Caitlin's too hormonal to fight back. Hormonal, I repeated to the room. I'll show him hormonal. But Tiffany's reply was the real prize. Just make sure you get everything before she pops out the kid. My lawyer says fathers have to pay way more after the birth certificate is signed. Her lawyer, The 22-year-old fitness instructor had a lawyer. Roger called again. Bradley's boss wants to talk to you. Brad's been telling everyone you went crazy during pregnancy, that you abandoned him and he had to protect his assets. Of course he did, I said. Frank wants proof, Roger continued. He's also furious about the company card. I emailed Frank the spreadsheet. 20 minutes later, Roger called back laughing. Frank scheduled a Monday morning meeting with Bradley. Subject line, urgent compliance review. He's done. Dr. Ramirez checked on me again, this time with her resident doctor. Kim, who looked 12 but had the dead-eyed exhaustion of someone who'd seen everything. Your blood pressure is improving, Dr. Ramirez said, surprised. Most people in your situation are not building a revenge portfolio while on bed rest. Dr. Kim pulled up a chair. Is it true your husband posted gym selfies while you were in surgery yesterday? How did you? Sandra snorted. The whole hospital is following it. Radiology made a PowerPoint tracking the timeline. We uncovered Bradley's biggest mistake, the house. Both our names were on the mortgage, but the down payment had come entirely from my grandmother's inheritance. I had the paper trail. Bradley had contributed exactly nothing except opinions about curtain colors. Mallory built the case like a prosecutor prepping for the trial of the century. Abandonment during a medical emergency, theft, fraud, adultery with evidence, insurance fraud, forgery. And now embezzlement from his employer. It's like he read a guide on how to lose everything in divorce court and thought it was instructions, she said. Diane became an unexpected ally, using her social media skills to archive Tiffany's posts. She just uploaded a house tour, Diane texted. She's showing your grandmother's china. The set we fought about. Want me to comment? No, I said. Let her keep posting. Every video is evidence. My contractions intensified, but I refused to deliver until the pieces were in place. My daughter was not arriving into uncertainty. Sandra joked I was the first patient she'd seen trying to schedule labor around litigation. You can't actually control when you give birth, doctor. Ramirez warned. Watch me, I said. That evening, Patricia brought homemade soup, real food, not the hospital's beige attempt at nutrition, and more news. Tiffany's selling your jewelry on Facebook Marketplace. My jewelry? I nearly dropped my spoon. Your grandmother's engagement ring is listed for $2,000, Patricia said, voice sharp. It's worth $15,000. The ring my grandmother wore for 60 years, the ring she left to me, the ring I kept in the bedroom safe. Bradley must have watched me enter the code during one of his fake loving husband moments when he pretended to care about my pregnancy. Screenshot everything, I said. Already done, Patricia replied, and I bought it. You what? I bought it under a fake name, she said coolly. Picking it up tomorrow, you'll want it back. And now we have proof of theft. The universe has a sense of humor, and apparently it was fully committed to the bit. Bradley's co-workers started reaching out the way distant relatives appear when money is involved, except they weren't offering congratulations. They were offering evidence. Frank called personally. Caitlin, I need you to know what Bradley's been saying about you. We knew it was nonsense. A woman doesn't build your reputation and suddenly go pregnancy crazy. What exactly has he been saying? That you became irrational, violent. He claimed you threw a laptop at him. Frank, I said, I can barely lift my phone right now. We know, and we know he's been using company resources for personal expenses, he said. We're expanding the investigation. That fictitious client he created, we're tracking every expense. Then came a call I didn't expect. Harrison, Bradley's golf buddy. The same man who'd once told me women belonged in the kitchen, not the boardroom. I don't like getting involved in marital disputes, he began, which was rich coming from a man on his third wife. But Bradley crossed a line. He's been bragging about upgrading to a newer model. Said you were depreciating like a used car. Charming, I muttered. My daughter's your age, Harrison said. If someone said that about her, he exhaled. Look, I recorded him last 3 golf games talking about hiding money, Tiffany. Leaving you with nothing because, quote, what's she going to do, audit me? Yes, Bradley, I said to the ceiling. That's exactly what I'm going to do. The recordings were pure gold, Bradley, several beers deep, laying out his plan, how he'd been moving money slowly. How Tiffany coached him on what to say to lawyers, how he expected me to be too overwhelmed to fight. She's not leaving the hospital for weeks, his voice slurred. By then I'll have everything locked down, house will be mine, money's already gone. She gets nothing but stretch marks and a baby I never wanted anyway. Sandra, checking my vitals, had to sit down. Did he just say he never wanted the baby? She whispered. The baby he begged for. The baby he said would complete our family, the baby whose nursery he was supposedly too busy to decorate. Men like that should come with warning labels, Sandra said. They do, I said. We just convince ourselves we can fix them. The trust fund bomb dropped when Mallory reviewed my grandmother's estate documents. The Morrison Family Trust, what Bradley had waved off as old people paperwork, contained a clause. Upon the birth of my first child, I would gain access to $500,000 set aside specifically to secure the education and stability of future generations. Bradley had no idea. He never asked about my family's finances. He assumed my Honda and my habit of shopping sales meant there was nothing there. My grandmother survived the Depression and invested like she planned to outlive spite itself. She would have laughed at Bradley's assumptions. He really doesn't know, Mallory asked. I mentioned it once, I said. He said it was probably a few thousand in bonds and switched the subject to fantasy football. Meanwhile, Tiffany was still living her best life in my house, posting constantly. Morning yoga in my Zen space, my home office. Meal prep in this gorgeous kitchen, my KitchenAid mixer front and center. Self-care Sunday in the master suite, my grandmother's quilt visible on the bed, but the internet is undefeated. Someone, my money was on Patricia, leaked the truth to a local Facebook group. Chonburi Community Watch grabbed it and Tiffany's Instagram flooded with comments. Is that the pregnant wife's house? Girl, you're wearing a married man's wife's clothes while she's in the ICU. This is embarrassing for your soul. Tiffany went private within hours, but it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. Doctor Ramirez, fully invested now, asked me during rounds. Medical question, how are you this calm? Most people would have stress delivered by now. Revenge is soothing, I said. I'm putting that in my notes, she replied, dead serious. Patient finds litigation therapeutic. Diane, who first texted out of curiosity, was now fully Team Caitlin. Our 2-year silence over China patterns felt ridiculous. I was petty, she admitted, sitting by my bed. You were right about Mom's China going to you. You took care of her? We were both grieving, I said. She swallowed. Yeah, but you were also pregnant and being betrayed. I win Worst Sister Award. Tiffany wins Worst Human Award, I said. You're fine. Patricia's transformation was even sharper. The woman who used to defend Bradley's every move was now his loudest enemy. 30 years ago, she said, handing over more documents, his father did this to me. I swore Bradley would be different. I failed. You didn't fail, I told her. Bradley failed? Patricia nodded grimly. I have his father's financial records from the divorce. Same patterns, same hidden accounts, same arrogance. But his father was smarter. He waited until after the baby was born. I exhaled. Bradley always did like one-upping his dad. The insurance investigation uncovered something beautiful. Bradley forged my signature on separation papers. Federal level stupid. The investigator, Cheryl, sounded like she'd been waiting her whole career for a case like mine. Forgery, fraud, falsified dates while you're hospitalized, she said, almost gleeful. We're referring it to the FBI. The FBI, I repeated. It crossed state lines, Cheryl said. He filed in Jersey while you were hospitalized in Pennsylvania. That makes it federal. Bradley had federal crimes on his resume, overachiever. Harper Miranda Morrison arrived at 4:47 a.m. On a Tuesday, 6 weeks early, furious and screaming like she was already drafting her first lawsuit. The nurses said she was perfect. I said she had impeccable timing. Mallory was already in the hallway with a notary. The trust documents were ready. Bradley, of course, was nowhere to be found. His Instagram showed him at a 5:00 a.m. Sunrise boot camp with Tiffany, wearing matching beast mode tanks that cost more than my hospital copay. The man who couldn't wake up before 9 for our anniversary had reinvented himself as Mr. Morning workout. Probably best he isn't here, Sandra said as she cleaned up Harper while I signed documents between aftershocks. I'd have accidentally dropped something sharp near him. Multiple times. The trust activated as soon as Harper's birth certificate was filed. $500,000 protected in an ironclad trust Bradley couldn't touch even if he knew it existed. My grandmother had survived the Depression by hiding money in coffee cans. In her later years, she apparently leveled up into ruthless estate planning. Roger spent the night running forensics on Bradley's company spending. The total is disgusting, he reported. $67,000 over 2 years in miscategorized personal expenses. What did he expense? I asked, exhausted. A couple's massage as client relationship building. The client doesn't exist, Roger said. We verified business registration is completely fabricated. Shocking, I said flatly. And he expensed Tiffany's entire CrossFit certification course as professional development for a financial analyst. $8,000. Well, I said, he did develop into a professional criminal, Dr. Ramirez checked on us and then turned serious. The insurance company called, she said. They're expediting approval for all your care, including Harper's NICU stay if needed. Someone high up is very interested in your case. That someone turned out to be Cheryl's boss, Director Williams, who wanted a clean example case. Bradley had volunteered as tribute. Patricia arrived with coffee and a smirk. Tiffany's moving out, she announced. I nearly dropped Harper. What? She found out about the FBI investigation, Patricia said. And she discovered Bradley's broke. She's been living on credit cards. He's maxed out. Patricia's eyes sharpened. She thought she was getting a sugar daddy. She got a Splenda father instead. Splenda father, I repeated, laughing despite everything. Fake sweet and leaves a bad aftertaste. Even in postpartum exhaustion that landed. The forensics kept unfolding. Bradley had opened 6 credit cards I didn't know about, nearly maxed, totaling $45,000 in debt. He'd been juggling minimum payments by siphoning money out of our savings. He's been taking cash advances to pay other cards, Mallory said, scanning statements. Classic house of cards, except he's both the scammer and the mark. Frank called with the update I'd been waiting for. Bradley's terminated effective immediately, he said. We're pressing charges for embezzlement. His final check goes straight to restitution. Does he know? Not yet, Frank said with satisfaction. He'll learn Monday when his key card doesn't work. Security's been instructed to record it for documentation. Poetry. Bradley ambushed me with divorce papers via email. He'd be ambushed with unemployment via a locked door. Janet built a timeline that looked like a conspiracy wall, except everything was verified. April 2, she said, tapping a page. Tiffany posts about new beginnings. April 3, Bradley opens the Jersey account. April 4, first major withdrawal from your joint savings. He really thought he was smart, I murmured. Stupid people usually do, Janet replied without missing a beat. Harper, despite being early, thrived. NICU doctor said she was impressively loud for a preemie. I told you, I said. She inherited my ability to make myself heard. Diane kept archiving the social media mess. The internet turned on Tiffany completely. Someone dug up old posts where Tiffany insisted she was a homewrecker, just a gold digger. The irony was perfect. She's trying to claim she didn't know you were married or pregnant, Diane said, showing me the latest. The woman wore my maternity clothes in workout videos, I said. Yep, Diane said. Comments are pointing that out. Also, someone found your wedding registry. Your names are literally on the Le Creuset she's been cooking with. The hospital's social worker, Maria, was a lifeline. When insurance looked shaky, she filed emergency Medicaid due to spousal abandonment. The state takes abandonment of pregnant women very seriously, she told me, especially with documented fraud. You'll be covered and the state will pursue reimbursement from him. Saturday afternoon, Tiffany reached out directly, a DM on Instagram. Can we talk? I called Mallory first. If I talk to her, I record everything, right? Mallory's answer was immediate. Yes. The call was illuminating. Tiffany was, in her own way, also a victim of Bradley's lies, just a dumber one. He said you were separated for a year, she whined, sounding younger than her photos. He said you were crazy, that you abandoned him, that the baby wasn't even his. I looked at Harper. The baby who looks exactly like him. I didn't think about that, Tiffany muttered. He showed me papers, commitment documents. He said you were in a psychiatric hospital for months. Mallory, listening, mouthed, another felony. I'm moving back in with my parents, Tiffany continued, voice cracking. I can't afford anything. He said he was rich. He said he owned a company. He said, I repeated. Tiffany started crying. I'm so stupid. Yes, I said, you are. But you're 22, so there's still hope. Send me everything he gave you, every document, every text, every promise. Why would you help me? I'm not helping you, I said calmly. I'm destroying him. You're just useful collateral. Monday morning hit like Christmas for lawyers. Bradley walked into his office building at 8:47 a.m., cocky, holding his overpriced coffee. At 8:48, his key card was denied. At 8:49, security escorted him to HR. Frank later shared the footage like a man unwrapping the perfect gift. The meeting was biblical, Frank told me while I nursed Harper. We showed him your forensic analysis. His face went from confused to furious to whatever comes after pale. Translucent maybe. What did he say? I asked. He tried to blame you, Frank said, claimed you falsified everything. Then we showed him his own emails approving the expenses, his signature on everything. The fake company he created. He actually asked if we could work something out. Let me guess, I said. No, Frank replied happily. Security had to physically escort him out when he wouldn't leave. He kept saying it was a misunderstanding. And then, like a coordinated strike, the legal serving began. As Bradley stumbled out with a banker's box of personal items, process servers hit him from every angle: divorce countersuit at the office, embezzlement charges in the parking lot, insurance fraud notice at his car, a federal subpoena as he tried to bolt. It was like a legal flash mob, Mallory said. She destationed herself across the street to watch. He tried to run in dress shoes, she added, slipped on ice, fell into a puddle. The process server had to help him up just to hand him the federal papers. The house situation solved itself when Tiffany left voluntarily. She was already packing when police arrived about the stolen jewelry. Patricia's Facebook marketplace setup gave them enough for a warrant. Tiffany was wearing my grandmother's ring when they showed up. She claimed Bradley gave it to her, Patricia said later, voice hard. They explained that's still receiving stolen property. Did they arrest her? No, she cooperated, Patricia said. She handed over everything: jewelry, receipts, texts where Bradley literally called them family heirlooms and talked about liquidating them. Tiffany, finally grasping the magnitude of Bradley's lies, flipped completely. The documents she sent were devastating: fake psychiatric holds for me, forged decrees dated months earlier, and somehow an actual falsified death certificate for the baby. He told her the baby died, I said to Mallory, stunned even after everything. He told her a lot of things, Mallory said, all criminal. All documented. The FBI agent who reviewed the fake death certificate actually whistled. That's a whole different level, she said. Credit card companies, once they learned the scope of the fraud, froze everything. Bradley had been living on credit for months. Now he had no access to money at all. The $47,000 he stole was long gone, burned in 2 weeks on debt, Tiffany, and keeping up a lifestyle he couldn't afford. His Mercedes was repossessed Tuesday afternoon. He'd missed 3 payments. Patricia, who accidentally drove by she was stalking him, relayed the details with satisfaction. He tried to negotiate with the repo man, she said, offered him his watch. Did it work? I asked. It was fake, Patricia replied. The repo man laughed. Wednesday took the country club membership revoked, 3 months overdue. Thursday took the golf club. By Friday, his CrossFit gym banned him for non-payment and for causing a hostile environment after Tiffany's Instagram Live confession. Diane showed me the recording. Tiffany cried, explained how Bradley manipulated her, lied, used her credit cards when his were declined, then held receipts up to the camera like exhibits. The comments were vicious and deserved. Girl, you thought you won a prize and got a penalty. Imagine fumbling a pregnant wife for this. Karma does miss. The FBI investigation expanded quickly. Forging psychiatric documents and death certificates crossed even more lines than insurance fraud. Agent Martinez called Friday afternoon and sounded almost impressed. In 20 years, I've rarely seen someone commit this many federal crimes for this little money, she said. Usually death certificate forgery comes with million-dollar schemes. Your ex did it for what? A mediocre house and a girlfriend who can't do basic math. Almost impressive, I said. It would be, Agent Martinez replied, if it weren't so pathetic. We're adding mail fraud, wire fraud, forgery of government documents, and conspiracy charges. He's looking at serious time. Bradley's family imploded. Richard, Bradley's father, initially defended him until Patricia showed him the 30-year-old journal entries. My God, Richard said when he visited me and Harper after we were home. He really is just like I was, except dumber. I had the sense not to commit federal crimes. That is a low bar, Richard, I said, and Bradley limboed under it, Patricia muttered. Asset recovery moved fast. The prenup's infidelity clause held. With Tiffany's testimony and evidence, Bradley couldn't deny it. His $401k, $75,000. His Rolex collection, $8,000. Fake watches, real money spent. The boat registered under his brother's name, $25,000. His parents, horrified and trying to make amends, offered $30,000 to cover the rest. We'll pay it, Patricia insisted. Then he'll owe us with interest, compound interest, the kind that doubles every year. Even Bradley's brother Stephen finally quit enabling him. He asked me to lie about the boat ownership, Stephen told me, said you were trying to steal his assets. Stephen looked sick. I actually feel sorry for him, and now I'm changing my last name. I don't want to be associated with this level of stupid. Court looked like a Law and Order episode with a budget shortage. Our side, Mallory, Patricia, Richard, Diane, Roger, 3 character witnesses and a forensic accounting team. Bradley's side, a public defender named Carl who looked like he wanted to crawl under the bench and live there. Bradley arrived wearing the rental suit from our wedding. Apparently he'd kept it for years, never returned it, and now it was the only suit he had. CrossFit had made it too tight. He looked like a sausage aspiring to formal wear. Judge Harrison, no relation to the golf buddy, reviewed the file with a progression of expressions: disbelief, disgust, and what I swear was suppressed laughter. Mr. Fisher, she said, in my 30 years on the bench, I've seen spectacular failures of judgment. You have managed to surpass them all. You've committed crimes I didn't know existed. Bradley tried to look dignified. It was like watching a wet paper towel pretend to be fabric. The evidence presentation was slow, methodical demolition. Mallory began with abandonment, leaving a pregnant wife in the ICU, then theft, the $47,000 and everything after, insurance fraud. Forged signatures, false dates, mail fraud, wire fraud, crossing state lines, using USPS to move fraudulent documents, embezzlement, $67,000 from his employer, identity theft, fake psychiatric holds. A falsified death certificate. Your Honor, Mallory said, Mr. Fisher didn't just burn bridges, he committed arson across 3 states and federal jurisdiction. He created a how-to guide for destroying your own life. Carl tried weakly. Your Honor, my client was experiencing a midlife crisis. At 34, Judge Harrison cut in. An early midlife crisis, the pressure of impending fatherhood he begged for, according to these text messages where he promised, and I quote, "I'll be the best father ever, babe. Nothing matters more than our family." Carl stared at Bradley with pure exhaustion. Judge Harrison leaned forward. "You're not mounting an actual defense?" Carl spread his hands. "Your Honor, what would you like me to say? That forging a death certificate for an unborn child is defensible? I went to law school, not clown college." Even Bradley's lawyer had given up. Tiffany testified via video link from her parents' house in Ohio. Mascara streaked down her face as she read texts aloud and held up documents. "He said she was crazy," Tiffany said, voice trembling. "That she tried to kill the baby, that he was protecting his future child by leaving. He showed me fake commitment papers while she was hospitalized trying to keep that child alive." Judge Harrison clarified, painfully calm. "So you believed him?" I was stupid," Tiffany whispered. "I'm 22, I was stupid, I thought he loved me." Judge Harrison's mouth twitched. "You're right about one thing. You were spectacularly stupid." Even Tiffany's lawyer flinched. Then the spreadsheets arrived. Roger had designed them so clearly that even Bradley could follow the trail, every falsified expense, every stolen cent, every lie in color-coded columns. Bradley tried to speak for himself. "It went exactly as badly as it should. Your Honor, I was trapped in a loveless marriage that you begged for," Judge Harrison snapped, flipping to our text history. "These messages show you texting your wife, 'I love you,' the morning you filed for divorce. Caitlin was controlling, the woman who let you manage finances until you stole everything. I never meant for what?" the judge demanded. "The federal crimes, the abandonment, the theft, the forgery, the fraud. Be specific, Mr. Fisher. You never meant for which of your many crimes? This is persecution." "No, Mr. Pfizer," Judge Harrison corrected sharply. "This is prosecution. Learn the difference." Patricia testified about the pattern, Bradley and his father, the cycle repeating. "I failed to break it," she said, "but Caitlin won't. She's stronger than I was." Richard testified too, condemning his own son. "I was a terrible husband 30 years ago," he said. Bradley watched and learned the wrong lessons, but these crimes, this cruelty, that's all him. Judge Harrison's ruling came down like a hammer, divorce granted immediately. "All marital assets awarded to me, including the house since my inheritance paid the down payment. Prenup enforced, $200,000 owed to be paid through asset liquidation and wage garnishment. Full custody of Harper to me, supervised visitation only for Bradley if and when he could afford it, which was unlikely from prison. For the criminal matters," Judge Harrison continued, "this court recommends maximum sentences for all state charges. Federal charges will be handled separately. I recommend no leniency. Federal was worse: wire fraud, mail fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, false documents, each carrying years. When the plea deal finally landed, 6 years federal prison, 3 years supervised release, full restitution, and a lifetime ban from financial sector employment." 6 years, Bradley gasped at Carl. "You're lucky," Carl said flatly. "The prosecutor wanted 10. The only reason you got 6 is because you're too stupid to be a real danger to society." As officers moved to take Bradley into custody, he turned toward me. "Caitlin, please think of Harper. She needs a father, she has a family," I said, cutting him off. "Grandparents who love her, an aunt who adores her, and a mother who will teach her to never tolerate men like you." "This isn't fair," Bradley snapped. Judge Harrison actually laughed. "Mr. Pfizer," she said, still amused, "you emailed your pregnant, hospitalized wife divorce papers. You stole everything. You moved another woman into her house. You committed multiple federal crimes. You forged a death certificate for your unborn child, and you think this isn't fair." Bradley's last words as they led him away were, "I want to appeal." Carl didn't respond. He just packed his briefcase and walked out, probably reconsidering every life choice that brought him to that moment. 6 months later, life had a rhythm again, one that didn't involve panic-checking bank accounts or wondering where my husband was at 2:00 a.m. Harper thrived, rolling over and babbling at anyone who would listen, especially Patricia, who became the grandmother she'd always wanted to be without Bradley in the way. My forensic accounting firm exploded. Publicly dismantling your ex-husband's financial crimes turns out to be excellent marketing. I started specializing in what Mallory called Bradley cases, women whose husbands assumed pregnancy or illness meant weakness. My client list grew so fast I hired 2 associates and a personal assistant. The house transformed completely. Every trace of Bradley and Tiffany disappeared, replaced by Harper's toys, my grandmother's furniture pulled from storage, and photos of our new life. The garage gym Bradley installed became my office. I loved the irony, building women's futures in the space where he built his delusions. A surprise arrived in the mail from Ohio. A letter from Tiffany, not a performative Instagram apology, an actual one. Dear Caitlin, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I was selfish, stupid, and cruel. I believed lies because they were prettier than truth. I hurt you when you were most vulnerable. I'm in therapy now, learning why I thought I deserved someone else's life instead of building my own. I've worked 2 retail jobs for 6 months to save this. Enclosed is $5,000, everything I have. It doesn't fix anything, but maybe it can go toward Harper's college fund. I'm also willing to testify in any future proceedings. Sincerely, Tiffany. P.S. You were right. Those clothes never fit me. I looked ridiculous. I see that now. I put the money into Harper's 529 plan. Tiffany was young and foolish, but she was learning. Bradley, writing from federal prison, was not. His letters arrived weekly. I found God. I understand what I lost. Can you send money for commissary? I returned them all unopened, stamped, no longer at this address. Patricia became my unexpected best friend. We met for coffee every Thursday while Harper charmed the baristas into free smiles. One morning, Patricia pulled out an envelope covered in prison stamps. He wrote me again, she said. He wants me to convince you to let him see Harper. What did you tell him? Nothing, Patricia said. I mailed him a photo of Harper in a onesie that says, "My daddy's in federal prison for financial crimes." Diane found it on Etsy. I stared. They make those, Patricia sipped her coffee. Apparently there's a market. Who knew? Diane and I repaired everything. The china set that had split us now lived in my dining room, used for Sunday dinners where we laughed about nearly everything except the worst parts. Remember when we didn't speak for 2 years over plates? Diane said one night, feeding Harper mashed carrots. Remember when my husband emailed me divorce papers while I was in the ICU? I replied. Diane raised her hands. Okay, you win. I also win best revenge story, I said. Roger helped me expand the business into a consulting firm. We partnered with divorce attorneys to expose what soon-to-be ex-husbands hid. The Bradley Method, we called it. It uncovered millions in hidden assets across dozens of cases. You turned trauma into a business model, Roger said one day, reviewing quarterly profits. Capitalism at its finest, I said. My pain is now extremely profitable. 8 months after trial, Director Williams called with an offer. We want you to consult on financial fraud cases, she said, specifically marriage-related fraud. You have a talent for finding what men think they've buried. Federal consulting, I repeated. Work from home, she added. We know you have Harper to think about. The pay is excellent. I accepted immediately. Bradley's spectacular failure became my spectacular success. The ultimate irony arrived in, of course, an email from Bradley's former company. They were being audited because of his embezzlement. Frank wanted to hire me to run the forensic review. I know it's weird, Frank said on the phone, but you know our systems better than anyone, and the poetry of you fixing what Bradley broke, priceless. I took it. The audit showed Bradley cost the company nearly $100,000 over 3 years. They used my findings to strengthen their case, which added another 2 years to his sentence. One night, rocking Harper to sleep, I got a text from a client. Saw your ex's mom at Walmart. She said he's mopping prison floors now. Karma is beautiful. Even Patricia had become ruthless about her son's fate. He went from financial analyst to toilet analyst, she'd told the Walmart shopper. The final document came on Harper's first birthday, termination of Bradley's parental rights. He signed voluntarily in exchange for reduced restitution payments. He literally sold his daughter to lighten his financial load. Patricia cried when I told her. I raised a monster, she said. You raised a man who showed me exactly what I don't want Harper to ever accept, I said. In a way, he taught me the most valuable lesson: how to recognize and destroy financial predators. That night we celebrated Harper surrounded by family: Diane, Patricia, Richard, Roger, Mallory. And even Sandra from the hospital. No one spoke Bradley's name. He'd become what he tried to make me: nothing. After the party, while I cleaned up, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Local man's federal fraud case used as FBI training example. There was Bradley's mugshot, his timeline. A quote from Director Williams: this case shows how domestic financial abuse can escalate into federal crimes. Mr. Fisher thought his pregnant wife would be too vulnerable to fight back. He was wrong. I screenshot it and sent it to Mallory with 2 words: still understood. Later, watching Harper asleep in her crib, safe, loved, surrounded by people who fought for her before she was even born, I realized Bradley had given us one gift. He showed us exactly how strong we were. He tried to break me at my weakest moment and instead built an army of women who wouldn't let another Bradley win again. My phone buzzed one more time. A potential client, 8 months pregnant. Husband had emptied their accounts. I answered immediately. I can help. First consultations free. He won't win because they never do, not anymore. Not on my watch. Bradley was right about one thing. I did audit him, and he failed spectacularly. Thanks for being here. More stories are already on your screen. Pick one. The best parts are ahead. See you next time.